Good morning. Welcome to Pinky Mall's Cakes, Cookies, and Candy, also known as Pinky Mall's Sisters in the Kitchen. I'm cooking by myself today, so we rotate every other Monday, Mary and I, and then we'll be together tomorrow, and then at her house, and then back here at my house on Wednesday. So thank you all for joining me. I hope that y'all had a wonderful weekend. And I'm cooking today what we're going to have for supper tonight. So some of you may have seen me cook a version of this. I'm doing it a little bit different. And I'll show you a couple of things that I'm using today that I haven't used before. So I'm going to actually be using the quick cooker and also the grill pan. I'm not even cooking these in the oven like I put on the recipe. Y'all know how we are. Sometimes we do things different. So I'm going to show y'all a couple of tricks to make your meal get done faster. And some of these I may have told you before, but I'm going to grab this one thing out of the refrigerator to show y'all that I got. And this is ham base, and you can buy the different bases in Walmart, but our Walmart doesn't carry the ham base. This is very concentrated. It's better than bouillon, and it's made with seasoned ham. Now I will tell you that this is extremely salty, so I'm going to alter my salt in here because I don't want to have something that number one, wouldn't be good for us, and number two, you couldn't eat. So after you open this, you have to put it back in the refrigerator, and it's like a paste. So y'all may have seen the chicken or the beef. Well, this is the ham, and it's got a real smoky flavor to it, and I used about a tablespoonful of that, and I'll show y'all in a little bit how I did it. So I'm going to get started here. Now I do have my seasonings out, and I'm going to use some pepper, but I'm not going to use any table salt because I tasted of this broth over here this morning, and it is very salty. I am going to use some smoked salt, just very sparingly. And again, this is something that I got at Walmart. It's a Walmart brand. I don't know if your store carries it or not. I've bought this in the past, and it's got a real smoky flavor to it. So I'm going to use a little bit of that, just a tiny bit of garlic salt, a little bit of cayenne pepper, and I'm going to also use a little bit of chipotle. And I've been out of this, and I got this in the other day, so I'm going to use a little bit of that. This has got a variety of seasonings in it, and it's got some garlic in it. And it's just got some real good flavors in it, and then of course some black pepper. So this is 3 center cut pork chops, and they're not thick, but they're not thin. I would say these are a medium. And by the way, Mary is watching on the other end. Hi, Mary. Of course, I always miss her when she's not here, and Carla. But they're tending to other things today, so they will be probably on some and off some. So these are my pork chops that I've got, and I'm going to get those seasoned. I've cut up in strips, a red pepper, an orange pepper, and a yellow pepper, and this is probably the equivalent of maybe a medium to large onion, and I just did it in rings because I'm not really a stir-fry person. I thought last night I should get out the wok and do this in the wok, but I'm not. I'm going to do it in the grill pan because the grill pan's already hot. It's already dirty because I'm going to be browning these pork chops in it, and I want those good things in the bottom of the pan. I want that flavor to get in these vegetables. So those are my vegetables, and then I have one more thing to show you, and that's my potatoes. And while I'm over here, I'm going to put my grill pan on. But this is 4 small Yukon potatoes. Yukons are kind of gold, and I have parboiled these, and what that means is they're not completely done, but they're partially cooked. I just cut them in kind of logs, and these are not big potatoes or small potatoes. I usually allow 2 potatoes a person, and I'm not eating potatoes but maybe once a month now, but I am going to eat a couple of these for supper, and I may only eat 2 logs, and I may eat 3, I don't know, but I am going to eat just a little bit. So I took these out of the boiling water. I just salted the water, and I boiled them for about 7 minutes. This plate's kind of flimsy. And then I took them out because I did not want them to cook completely. Now, if you're wondering why I use Yukon Gold, I use Yukon Gold because they don't, they hold their texture. If you use a regular Idaho baking potato, it's going to fall apart. If you've ever boiled potatoes, like for mashed potatoes or something, and you use like regular Irish potatoes or a baking potato, and you saw they had like strings in them, kind of like sweet potatoes do sometimes, these don't do that way. And these do cost more. I'd rather pay a little bit more for them and them to have texture than them to just completely disintegrate into water. So that's why I buy Yukon Gold. You can get them in different sizes. This is probably, these are not the baby ones. These are probably the medium. They're about this big around, and that's what I buy. So I'm going to go ahead and get my pork chops seasoned here. I've got my grill pan on, and I've also got my quick cooker on, and I've already had it on this morning, so it's hot, so it won't take long to heat that up. So I'm just going to give these, I'm seasoning both sides of the pork chops. I'm going to just a tiny bit of garlic salt because I don't want to add too much salt. I'm going to do just a tiny bit of cayenne, just to bump it up a notch. And then I'm going to do a little bit of the sea salt. I mean the smoked salt. I'm sorry, it's not sea salt, it's smoked salt. And a little bit of chipotle. This has got a lot of different seasonings in this. And some black pepper. I've got to have my black pepper. And I usually try to do black pepper pretty generously. Y'all know I love pepper. Okay, now I want really bad to put salt on this, but I'm not, because I do not want, I don't want these to be over salty. So I'm just going to turn them over with my tongs. And I had said on my other page over the weekend that I was going to make ham dumplings. Or I didn't make them, but I am going to make them probably live in a week or 2, maybe around the end of May. So y'all will get to see how I do that. Some more little smoked salt, chipotle. A little more cayenne. And a little more garlic. Not much, just a little. And some black pepper. Now it's really important that you season both sides of your meat, because if you don't, it's going to be blah tasting, and you can add it after it gets done, but it tastes so much better when it's seasoned before it's cooked. So I'm going to move the camera over here, and I'm going to get my pork chop searing in the hot grill pan. Now, if y'all don't have or don't want to use the center cut pork chops, which these are, they cost a little more. You can certainly use the assorted. You can use the sirloin chop. You can use whatever you have in your freezer or whatever you buy. If you buy a family pack, sometimes you get some center cut, and sometimes you get the assorted. So you can tell my grill pan's hot, and I brushed it with a little bit of vegetable oil. And I just use Western vegetable oil. If y'all use olive oil, or if you use avocado oil, well, absolutely use that. This is just what I use, is the Western oil. I'm going to put my grill press down on it, and I'm going to let that hang out just a couple minutes. I've got this on medium-high, and then I'm going to show you what I did over here with the ham base. I had 1 tablespoon of ham base, and I put about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of water. Let me see if y'all can see that. I hope you can see it. It's got a really, really smoky flavor to it. Now I've got my quick cooker over here, and I have a ladle and a half in this. I started out with a little over 2 cups, and I have a ladle and a half in here because I want to cook the pork chops in it after I get them grilled. And we'll put these on, and woo, that's popping. We'll put these on just as soon as I get my grill marks. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on sear. If you've ever wondered an easier way or a quicker way to bring your quick cooker up to steam or up to pressure, and I'm saying this with Pampered Chef because that's what I'm using. I don't know about the other brands. They may work the same way. But in order to make this come to pressure quicker, if you'll start it on sear, the Pampered Chef is preset for 21 minutes. I always stop it at about 10, and then I put the lid on and I turn it to the pressure. It just makes it cook a lot quicker. So if you do that first, then you're going to get a meal done quicker. This element is right on the bottom, so this stainless steel pan here sits right on the element, and it starts boiling almost immediately after you hit the run button on sear. It will really start boiling really quickly. So I'm going to turn this back again. I hope I'm not messing up. I keep turning this, and I'm going to turn these over. You can see that it's smoking really good. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and start this. Okay, so you want to see those beautiful grill marks? I'm going to turn it over. I love grilled pork chops. Now these are big pork chops. More than likely, I won't even eat the whole pork chop for one meal. What I don't eat in the afternoon at our evening meal or supper meal, whatever's left, I'll save it for the next day for lunch. So. And I always cook an extra one, so Mike can have one for lunch tomorrow too. So that's why I'm cooking 3. And in the recipe I said 4, because most people are cooking for a family, they're going to have at least 4. And if you're cooking more than 4, then you would adjust the seasonings and the vegetables according to the size of your family. So I'm leaving this here. I'm leaving this on simmer because I want this to reduce, and I'm going to use this to pour on top of the pork chops and the veggies when everything gets done. So I want to keep this hot, and I want to keep it, actually I've got it on 3, so it's actually not on simmer. It's actually on a little higher than simmer. So let's see if we've got this boiling over here yet. It's been cooking a minute. It hasn't quite started boiling yet, but it will pretty soon. I'm going to get my vegetables over here. So when I get through with the pork chops, I can add these. Now, if y'all wonder why I've always got this paper plate out here, I have that out there to set this grill press on because it doesn't fit on a regular size paper plate, and I don't want to just set it on my counter. So I just set it on the paper plate, and that's why I keep that plate there. I'll put this back here for the time being. So all weekend we had a huge chance of rain. It didn't really rain that much. It rained some. I think it might have rained the other night. But south of us had a lot of storms. They had their power went out. There was trees down everywhere in Nacogdoches, and I don't know if Palestine got some or not, but sometimes the storms are south of I-20, sometimes they're north of I-20. We're north of I-20. Mary is south of I-20. And then sometimes they go at an angle where they bypass us, and sometimes they come right straight through Jefferson. So it just depends on which way the storms are moving, how much weather we get or don't get. These pork chops smell so good. I love to smell pork chops cooking. So someone mentioned the seasonings. These are the seasonings that I like. You can certainly use any seasoning that you have in your pantry or that your family likes. Some people only want salt and pepper on them. And if that's all you like, well then that's what you use. If you don't want to use the ham base or you don't have it, I didn't have it and couldn't find it, so I had to order it. But you can certainly use any seasonings that you're comfortable with that your family likes. Okay, and you'll see that this over here is already boiling. It only took a minute or so for it to boil. And just as soon as these pork chops get the way I want them, I'm going to go ahead and put them over there in the cooker, put the lid on it, and start cooking them. Let's see. One mistake that people make with meat, and I've done it myself, that you tend to want to fuss with it and constantly turn it and everything, and especially with steaks, and I don't eat steaks, so I don't cook steaks. If Mike wants a steak, he cooks it himself. But it's better to leave it alone, so you're not constantly moving it around, and you want to get that good sear on it. So I think these are about to where I want them. So I'm going to go ahead and put them over here in the quick cooker. See what a beautiful color we've got on both sides, and that color just gives them so much taste. I'm going to put these down in here. And I've got, you can see all of this good stuff that I've got in there. I'm going to deglaze that in just a second. I'll take this off of the burner right for the time being because I want to get this over here and get this started. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to put my lid on it. And I'm going to turn this to pork. And, whoops, went past where I wanted to go. Okay, I don't want 35 minutes, so I'm going to turn it. I think I'm going to turn it to, you know what, I'm just going to go to custom, and I'll do it for 20 minutes because I want to make sure that it's done. So in order to get it to the right minute, you just turn the dial, and I'm going to turn it to 20 minutes. Well, actually, I did turn it to 21. So we're just going to let that hang out there. Now it's going to take it just a little bit to come up to pressure. So while that's coming up to pressure, I'm going to go ahead and get my veggies started. I'm going to put my grill pan back on. And let's see here. I need a little bit of juice in here. Now I don't need much of this to put on top of my stuff, so I'm going to put a little bit in here to kind of deglaze this. And I'm just going to add my onions and my peppers. And it doesn't really matter how you add this because you're going to be stirring them up. And then I'm going to cook these just a couple minutes, and then I'm going to add the potatoes. love to smell grilled onions cooking. They just really do smell good. Now I did the rings. If you wanted to, if you wanted to slice and make long ones, long pieces like I did, like julienne strips. Well, those aren't really julienne because they're not that small, but you can certainly do that. Again, there's no exact way that you can do this. You can do it however you want to do it. If it's easier for you to cut something a different way, then cut it a different way. I don't think my way is the only way. It's just the way I do it in my kitchen. So I'm going to turn that up just a pinch. I never really was a fan of stir fry. In my younger years, but as I've gotten older, I do like a little crunch in something like this. So I'm not going to put much salt, but I am going to add just a little bit of salt to this. And I'm going to add some pepper. Now these are going to wilt down, and it's kind of like when you're cooking greens. It's, it's going to cook down a little bit. So I noticed over the weekend there was a lot of people that graduated from either high school or college. And I know it's an exciting time in young people's lives when they're going on to, excuse me, that pepper made me sneeze. Goodness. When they're starting their life out and going on to do different things in their life, it's very exciting. It's just, now I feel like I'm going to sneeze again. This pepper. I don't usually sneeze around pepper. I'm around pepper all the time, and I don't usually sneeze, but this must have been some high-powered stuff. But it's always good to see young people starting on a different path when they're beginning their life after they get out of school. It's an exciting time, and I know many of you have had people graduate over the weekend, so congratulations to all the graduates, no matter what age they are. When I was a kid, there was no such thing as graduating from kindergarten. But now they graduate from the earliest time on up. They got their little caps and gowns, and it's so cute to watch them, to see them. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more water to my liquid here. And I'm not going to add any more of that ham base because I don't want to add any more salt to it. But I'm going to put just a little bit more liquid in here. I'm going to have some liquid in my pork chops anyway that I can use. And I'm going to, ouch, that is hot. I didn't know that thing was on fire. That paper plate was on fire. I almost burnt my hand. I had it too close to that burner. At least I guess I got it on the burner. Newsflash, paper burns, y'all. Almost burnt my hand. I got pretty good reflexes, so I got it off of there pretty good. But anyway, let's get some pepper on here. That's going to be something to laugh about. Okay, so I'm just going to add my potatoes. Now these are not totally done, but they don't like much being done. So just add these here. You got a bunch of fresh veggies, good veggies to go in that. So you're not just eating meat, you're getting some veggies too. I made a big mess here. I don't usually start fires, but I definitely. Well, no wonder I did that. I still got that back burner on. It's a wonder it hadn't really started fire. I didn't know I still had that back burner on. Okay. We kind of averted a disaster, or I kind of did. Guess it could have been worse. Well, I know it could have been worse, but anyway, always nothing like a little excitement. Hadn't burned myself in a long time. So I'm going to turn this burner up a little bit and see if this is going over there. I was thinking today that was pretty hot on my thumb there. I was thinking earlier today about the last long trip that I made from when I was working, traveling full time, and I won't ever forget it. You know, it's something about when you're heading toward home, when you're traveling and you're when you're going away from home, you're not in that big a hurry to get away from home. Or I'm talking about work. If you're on vacation, you know, that's a different story. But when you're coming home, there's something about it that you get a move on. So I left Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Now, this wasn't the last place I worked, but it was the last, next to the last place I worked. And the last place I worked was Tupelo, Mississippi. So I left Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and they never would check us out real early when we got our, what they call it, with our travel tick. Some of y'all might recognize that term. What it was is, it was our orders to go, not one military, but it was our orders to go to the next location. So, you know, we're always real excited when we're going to be moving on to another location. And I was really wanting to go to Mississippi because it was close to Edward's family, and this was right before Catherine was born, so I was real anxious to be close so I could go there when to see the baby when the baby was born. So I was very excited, and it was probably, I may have gotten out, sometimes they wouldn't let us out until 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, which that was such a drag because we wanted to get on the road, and we were packed and ready to go. And when I say we, I'm talking about me, because, you know, different ones of us would leave at different times. And when I knew that I was leaving, everything was ready. My car was filled up with gas. We always got cash before we left, or at least I did, so you didn't have to be taking out cash out of ATMs at in a strange place. So, you know, you always do those safety precautions. So I got out of there a little bit earlier than what I had thought. And I drove from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I don't even remember how many miles it was, but I know what time I got to the hotel. So it was a pretty long drive. I stopped at, I believe it was Roanoke, Virginia. I hope I'm not saying that wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right. But I got to Roanoke, Virginia, to the hotel that night about 11:30. And I probably stopped maybe one time. You know, I always had water, always had snacks and in the car. So all I would stop for would be to, you know, take a rest stop, go to the bathroom and get gas. So I got there about 11:30, stayed at a hotel right on the interstate, and then I got up at 3:30 the next morning, was in my car and on the interstate like 3:45. I was heading toward home. So I drove, and I was so excited because I knew that I was going to the last place before I was going to be coming home permanently. So I drove to Pearl, Mississippi, where, you know, we lived in that area in Rankin County for several years. And I spent the night there, and of course I got to see Edward and his family, the new baby. By this time the baby had been born. And okay, I'm going to pour a little bit of water in here because I don't want these to get dry. And you can keep pouring water in there as it keeps cooking out. You don't want it waterlogged, but you don't want it to get dry either. Now you can see I'm already getting some color on the potatoes. pour a little bit more in here. Now you can put a lid on this if you want to, or you can just leave it open, just however you want to do it. It's got all that good stuff in the bottom, so you can see it's got a lot of color on it, and that's going to get those potatoes a nice color too. So I got to Mississippi, and I got to the time that I was working in Tupelo. I actually got to go. It was only 100, I don't know, 150 miles or so from Tupelo to Jackson, and I made that trip several times while I was there. I would just take, when I had a day off, I'd just go down there and then visit with my family, and it was so nice to be that close to home. And then, of course, that was the last place that I worked before I came home permanently, and I guess that's going on 7 years. It's been about 6.5 years ago, I believe, since I was there. Keep an eye on this because I don't want that to completely run out. If you'll notice over here, my steam has already been pressuring for 5 minutes. It's down to 10 minutes, or actually no, it's on 21 minutes. So it's been cooking 11 minutes. And it would have taken longer than that for this to go up had I not started that on the sear. I don't want to tear my potatoes up, so I'm going to be real careful with this. I actually think I'm going to turn this off. Check this here. Okay, my thumb is just about quit burning, so I think I'm okay as far as my hand getting almost burnt. Okay, just pour just a tiny bit more in here because I do not want these to dry. I'm going to pour a tiny bit more water in here. So I got up this morning and come in here to start getting everything ready. And we play hide and go seek around here. You know, I'll have something out and I can't find it. Mike has put it up somewhere and I've been here looking for stuff. I can't find it. And so I'm like, okay, after I give up, then I go ask Mike, so where did you put this? I'm looking for it. I had it out for a reason, so he has to come in here. And of course, he puts his hand right on it because he knows where it's at because he's the one who put it up. And I also had to run to the store because I thought I had some bell pepper, and I did, but he put them in the freezer. So I ran over to Brookshire's, grabbed some bell pepper real quick, and came back. So I've had a little eventful morning here. I have to top it off by picking up a hot plate, but that's okay. We're good. And now these may not look the most beautiful color but I'm going to tell you these are going to taste amazing. I'm going to set them off the burner here because I don't want them to keep cooking, and I'm not going to put a lid on them because I don't want to steam it. I want it to be exactly like it is. And as soon as this gets done over here, I'll have to let the pressure off, and then we'll have to let it set in just a minute, and then I can take it up. So thank you, Carla. I see Carla's on there watching. Do any of y'all have any questions while we're waiting here? I will take some questions if any of y'all have any. I know we do still have some new viewers, or we have some new people watch us every day, so some of y'all might have some questions, or some of our regular friends that watch us all the time might have some questions. So if you do, now's a good time to ask. If I can answer them, I will. So yeah, I love vegetables too. We grew up with vegetables because Pinkie Paw raised vegetables. Just about any kind of vegetable that grew in East Texas, he raised it. So, you know, we didn't buy vegetables at the store. We didn't need to. He had potatoes year round because after the last crop, you know, after he dug them up, you know, he'd go down and plow them up, and us kids would go down and pick them off the vines. on our hands and knees, well, he would have just buku-oodles of potatoes, because where we lived in Nacogdoches, it was sandy soil. Now, there's a lot of red dirt in East Texas. It was on the farm where Mom and Pa lived. You see a lot of things red dirt, consider, you know, when they're talking about Nacogdoches. But we had a sandy soil where we lived, and it would just grow vegetables like crazy. I mean, it was perfect soil for growing vegetables. So he had okra, he had tomatoes, potatoes, squash, cucumbers, cantaloupe, watermelon, oh my goodness, all kinds of greens, radishes, onions, just about anything you could name. My Pinky Paw grew it. And every morning when we go to the field, we go to the field about 4:30 before daylight. And me and Edward and Pinky Paw, and we'd go out there and help him, and we'd pick vegetables, and then we would come back, and because it was too hot to stay out there, and we would come back, and then we would shell peas and beans. He raised peas and beans too, and we would shell, and then he had vegetables sitting out in his front yard, and people would stop and buy them. So he would always, we had 3 doors in our house, 2 on the front, 1 in the kitchen, 1 in the living room, and then 1 in the back, which was mine and Mary's bedroom, the back of the house. And every morning he would come back and he would have fresh vegetables on the doorstep for Mama, for her to have for that day. Never, ever failed. And he would, you know, he would have some, and Edward would say, he said, let's get your mama some vegetables. And Edward would say, well, we got these here. He said, no, we'll give them to the hogs. Let's get her some fresh ones. So he would always cut fresh vegetables or pick fresh vegetables for Mama. So we always had, we grew up with vegetables. And I do eat meat. Mostly what I eat now is a small piece of chicken, boneless chicken, skinless chicken, a small pork chop, which this would be considered a large one. And like I said earlier, I won't eat it all at one time. We do eat a taco salad, and I eat lots and lots and lots of salads. How did he store his potatoes? Well, he lived in, his house was a pier and beam, so you store potatoes in a cool, dark place, and he kept them under his house. They kept them in tow sacks, and that's how he stored them. And when we got out of potatoes, we just go out there under the house and we get potatoes for what we needed that week. So that's how he stored them. A lot of people stored them in root cellars. We didn't have root cellars in East Texas, or at least we didn't. Some people might have had them, but we didn't. But they kept nice and cool under the house. Okay, let's see if there's any. I probably missed some questions because I started talking. Yeah, Edward and Charles both, Linnell and Debbie, they all do excellent gardens. And Bobby used to do a garden at Mary's house. I've had a few gardens in my life, not many. I'm not an outdoors person. Even though I worked in gardens when I was young, it's not something that I carried on because I don't like heat and I don't like to be out when it's hot. And I'm more of an inside person in the kitchen. That's where I like to be, is in the kitchen. Okay, yeah, walking hot on hot sand. You are absolutely right, Marty. I mean, we've burnt our toes many a time walking in hot sand, and I will not go barefoot to this day, not even in my own house. I do not go barefooted. I always have some kind of shoes on, if they're slip-ons or something. I just do not like sand or grit or dirt on my feet. I cannot stand it. I was probably the worst kid Mama had because I cannot stand anything on my feet or hands. I literally can't. They've got to be clean. Okay, let's see if anybody else has got any questions. Yes, I am an inside girl. Now, I will walk to the mailbox. Our driveway's not real long, but, you know, it's long enough. I'll walk to the mailbox sometimes, and most of the time I don't even do that. Sometimes I'll walk around in the yard. I do move quite a bit in the house. I don't just sit all the time. But I'm not somebody to go out and work in the flower bed or to rake to mow the yard. Never mowed a yard in my life, and I'll be 75 in a few days. I cranked the lawnmower one time, and that was when Mike's arm was broke, and he couldn't crank the pull lawnmower, and I went out and cranked it for him. But I have never mowed a yard in my life. Now I know that my sister-in-laws love to mow. Mary loves to mow. So many women, they find it relaxing and they love to do it. Not I. I do not like mowing. I don't like any kind of yard work. I'll pay to get it done, but I am not going to do it. I just don't like it. Okay, my stuff here is really reduced down, really just to where it's almost to where I want it to be. I'm going to put just a tiny bit more of water in it, because I don't want it to all evaporate. But this is exactly where I was wanting to get this, because I want it to be real concentrated when I put that over there. Now my buzzer has gone off on my cooker, so it's quit cooking. I'm going to let this sit there just briefly, because it's a safety feature. It's hard to open this lid until it's cooled off just a little bit. So I'm just going to let that sit there a minute. And I'm going to turn this on low. And I don't want to take my vegetables up too quick, because I don't want them to get cold. But I am going to get it ready to plate. So let me get my stuff back up in the cabinet. Set this back on here. I think that's still hot. This cast iron pan, if somebody may have asked a question about this a while ago, this is not, I said cast iron, it is not a cast iron pan. This is titanium. It's a grill pan. The grill press is cast iron, but the pan is not. So I'm just going to put this back on low just to make sure that's heated. And let's see if I can get any steam out of this right here. Sometimes you can get steam out of it, and sometimes it takes you a minute to do this. And I usually jump when I do this, when it starts coming out. But I'm going to see if I can do it without jumping. Hey, Rita, I see my cousin on there. Hey, thank you for watching us. Rita knows what I'm talking about Pinkie Paw, because we're cousins, and she knows exactly what it was like growing up in Nacogdoches. Okay, I've got steam going out. Let's see if I got it all out. You kind of have to rock this just a bit to start with, because it's, there we go. Now we got it open. You don't want that steam to hit you in the face. I'm going to check and see. So I'm going to get my platter here. Now bear with me for just a minute. I'm going to get a clean set of tongs, because I used those with the meat that was raw. So I don't want to use the tongs for that. Okay, there's my pork chops. And then I'm going to bring this over here and put the veggies around it. I used to could pick up something with one hand and pour it with the other one, but I can't do that anymore, so I'm just going to set it down there on the counter. And I'm going to put all my veggies around this. Now, if I was making fajitas, I would do my peppers and onions the same way. I would cut them in strips. But of course, we're not making fajitas today. You want to make sure that you can see the meat. So I'm going to take the rest of my sauce here. You can see this is really concentrated. And I'm just gonna kind of put this over the top of the meat. Looks like I kind of made a mess there. I'm going to deglaze this pan again with that juice that's in the cooker, but I'll do that you can see how much I had left, probably about maybe half a 3/4 of a cup of the juice in there. I just put that back in the skillet, and it's got all that good stuff in the bottom, and you can drizzle this also over your food. So if it's hot summertime and you don't want to heat up the oven, even though in the recipe I did have this to be cooked in the oven, just cook it on top of the stove like this, and it's going to be just as good, because you've got all that good flavor, and you didn't have to heat up your oven. So I'm just going to, it makes a really, really pretty presentation. Let's see if I can just cut a bite of this off here. Get you a piece of onion, a piece of pepper, and a piece of pork chop. Thank you, Jesus. I love those sweet peppers. They're so good. And you can see that the pork chop is cooked really nice. It's got so much flavor to it. So y'all heard me say a few days ago that you can definitely eat healthy and not sacrifice flavor. So you could make this for a big crowd, or you could make it for 1 or 2 people. You just adjust how many servings you have. You know, if you're just cooking for you and one other, then, you know, however many pork chops you eat, that's what you would cook. If you want to, since you're going to the trouble of cooking, my philosophy is cook enough for 2 meals, because, you know, it takes a little time to prep. So I definitely would not cook just for 1 meal. This is more than 2 meals for us, especially since, you know, I'm not eating as much as I'm used to eat. So, and even before I started this healthy eating, I never ate a lot at one time. It was more about what I ate and how I prepared it than how much I ate. And for everyone that's ever tried to lose a pound or 2, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of it depends on how you cook it, and also what you're cooking. So this is not something that I would cook every day because of the potatoes, but you could definitely cook your veggies with it and just leave the potatoes out if you don't want to eat potatoes. I hope that y'all have enjoyed this. I really appreciate y'all watching, and I hope that you will share our page, continue to share our page with your friends and family and co-workers, neighbors, whoever. And be sure to join us tomorrow at Mary's house. And thank you again so very much for your love and support. And we just appreciate it so much. Don't forget to be kind to someone. You know, there's so many times that people and maybe, you know, I'm sure I've been there in my life. I've always tried to be a thankful person. I believe I've always been a thankful person, but there may be times in our lives where, you know, we feel it's necessary to get the last word, and that's not important. You know, if you're wrong, admit it. If you're, you know, if somebody else is wrong and you know they're wrong, well, you know, don't feel it necessary that you have to prove your point, because that's not what life is about. Life is about being kind, being nice, and showing that you have a good spirit. And I'll guarantee you, if you do that, you're going to always be thankful for your blessings. We say this every time we do a program. We say, don't forget to count your blessings. Don't be the one that grabs something and walks off. Be sure to be thankful for whatever it is in life. Even though it might not be much, be thankful for that. And it makes you a happier person. So thank you again. God bless. And we'll see y'all tomorrow, Lord willing. And I know Mary's going to be cooking something great tomorrow. So we'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.